Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show. How about this, y'all? We did all this talking about DeAndre Hunter and how he's a key factor, and he's just gonna do us like this. Come on, bro.
And Arthur Smith has another loss on his staff, but does it really matter?
And last but not least, and for the culture, LeBron is king.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
First off, we want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on today to get started. But T, I think the thing right now is, like, I'm feeling a little down and out because when you think about all the lauding of DeAndre Hunter that went down on this show just yesterday, 24 hours ago, you would think that, Dre, being that we know that he watches this show on a regular basis, you think he would have went out and got a game last night. He not only didn't have a game last night, the man didn't make a shot from the field, T.
I'm sorry, did Dre actually go to my hometown? I'm not sure. I've been asking people if there was a sighting in NOLA, and some say no.
Did he miss the flight? Like, what's going on, bro? Like,
they said that he was still on the true West Coast trip because, New Orleans is a part of the West Coast trip because of the Western Conference. I'm like, they're in the dirty. But you know what, Dre, I don't think he got the memo. I think he left all of his parts, except maybe his jaw, because that got nicked last night. But I think he left the rest of himself, mind, body, and spirit, on the West Coast, because I cannot tell you the last time I've seen him look that miserable. And Jarvis, might I say, not just on the offensive side. Yes, that was obvious because he was 0 for 9 from the field and 0 for 5 from 3. But really, to me, what stuck out as well is when Dre is doing things like getting 4 personal fouls. That's when you have to be concerned because there it is. And when he's racking up those fouls early, that's what concerned me the most, because at least if you're going to go over on one end, as I can actually think of Dejounte Murray doing something similar about a week and a half ago. But man, in the later portions of that game in that fourth quarter, if he did not turn up that defense, that's what I was waiting for Dre to do. I'm like, okay, fine. If the buckets and the baskets aren't falling, fine. Go defend, especially last night, Jarvis. Go defend on the wing, because as the game started getting out of control, what happened? Every other word was Trey Murphy III, Brandon Ingram, random dude goes and they drive, kick out, boom. Transition offense, come back. Exactly. Jose, I mean, which one you want to call it? Everybody. I mean, it was like, come on. So that's where my disappointment was for him. And that goes back to what we talk about with the Hawks overall, Jarvis, and that is our head-scratching befuddlement around the lack of consistency of effort. Because to me, that's what that was last night. That just, I didn't get it.
And to be honest with you, like, New Orleans is probably as inconsistent, because they're hovering around 500 themselves. So I think, whoever covers the Pelicans will probably say the same thing. But that's when you have team evenly matched like this, and I was, watching it, watching the game, you kind of hear the commentator saying, "Hey, the balls are going their way." That's because they have effort. It's just like you mentioned. They got an A for effort last night, and when you think they wanted it more, and I'm not even really too concerned about Trae only scoring 16 points last night. So I'm not tripping. He had 16 dimes. I'm cool with that. I'm so cool with that. But when you talking about that effort on defense and Clint Capella having the worst, I don't know how much you believe in plus or minus, T, but he was minus 19.
I did.
The worst in the starting five.
Yeah, that's
unacceptable. Like, only 8 rebounds? Dude, you get 8 rebounds in your sleep. Right, when Clint Capella is on. So I think that when you think about And that's supposed to be the centerpiece of your defense. If he's off, if he's having a bad game, he's lax, and guys are looking at each other when dudes are making layups, and I'm just like, yep, this is gonna be one of those games. And that's exactly what happened last night.
Yeah. And nobody seemed to want to step up and do anything except your bench. I mean, Onyeka Okongwu and Bogdan Bogdanovic on opposite ends of the court actually put in better work than most of your starters, to be honest with you. And what was frustrating is when you and I spoke yesterday, this was of course before we knew, but I want to give a little shout out to DJM, but before we knew that Dejounte had gone from available to questionable because of the migraine, you and I were talking about the fact that, hey, this is a clean injury report. We've gotten 3 of those, I think, in the last 3 weeks, just 3.
Yeah.
Other team didn't have a clean injury report at the time of our show. It was Zion Williamson, obviously, been out for 5 weeks. He wasn't coming back last night. But Brandon Ingram and Jonas Valanciunas were both probable dealing with soreness.
Yes.
So that tells you they were slightly hobbled. I need to know why in the world a hobbled Valanciunas
still went out there and
was able to ball and bang. Somebody make it make sense, because you're not going to tell me why dude was hampered, hobbled, not even himself, and is out here getting more than our allegedly healthy center, because 16, 14, 13, 8, the math ain't mathing.
Come on, T. Like, and when you think about, those are the type of things that, as the NBA trade deadline comes up, that's the things you gotta kind of think about, right? Take into consideration, because we always talk. It's always been, the narrative has always been, if they're healthy, they're good. But hey, you were for the most part healthy. You had a clean sheet as far as the injury report outside of Dejounte coming into this game, and he went out there and played. And hey, showed valiant effort.
Right. You ball better than the rest of you people.
Right. Exactly. Like, so if he's truly hampered, Trae, like, those are some of the things that you have to take a look at when these things come about. Now, granted, I know I just mentioned Trae Young, being snide person that I am, but we know he and DeJounte Murray ain't going no damn where. But I want to ask you this, though, T. Right. Who is the guy, contracts involved, length of contracts, money, all that stuff, take that all in consideration. Who is the guy that, if you look at this roster, you look and say, you know what, this is the most valuable guy that I have to keep on this roster going forward?
And like you said, outside of Trae and outside of Dejounte, I would honestly, and I want to say something to you about this one when I throw it out there.
Okay.
I'm going to go with AJ Griffin. Here's why I'm going with AJ Griffin. You know that Dre is my dude, right? Yep. Always, always, always. Got the jersey hanging. That's the only place when I go fangirl, kind of, sort of, right?
Of course, yeah.
But you got drafted in 2019, right? So we've now have more than enough sample size to see you get to where you want to be. And one of my buddies over at 92.9 The Game, our executive producer for the morning show, he and I literally almost said it at the same time this morning. Don't go in and say, oh, we haven't seen enough of AJ Griffin. Oh, AJ Griffin's showing you a whole heck of a lot in half a season.
To be honest with you, T, that's my answer too. AJ Griffin was the first person that I went to. I was just like, this is the dude who has the most value right now in the squad.
There it goes. And I want to hear your rationale for why. I'm going to tell you mine, but I want to hear yours as well, because when Abe and I were talking, we both said almost simultaneously, because we are Dre fans, just like you are. We're believers and we're supporters, but we also felt like he had the potential to be that dude. And we have yet to see him be that dude. Jarvis, I don't need 82 games of Dre being that dude. Can it get 67? Can it get 63?
Yeah.
It's now 4 years in. And I'm like, come on, Dre, you got a whole lot of cash that this team has invested in you, and they're believing in you. And yet, if I had to make a decision, I think I would take my chances on AJ, because the sample size is smaller, but I feel like the trajectory is maybe a little bit further up.
Yeah, and when you think about just from a offensive side of basketball, because just like we talked about earlier, right? Defense is effort. You know what I mean? And then if you look at the body style of AJ, he's a 2. He can shoot the rock, he can create. He's smooth. His game is smooth, and I think that when you think about, he's on a rookie contract as well. When a team who's trying to compete, trying to figure out how to stay below the luxury tax, that's value. And that's the main reason why I chose him, because Tony Ressler has made no qualms about trying to stay below that luxury tax line unless it makes sense. They're going to compete for an NBA championship.
Indeed.
And when you're trying to compete for an NBA championship, you have to draft well, and you have to be able to go out and get those guys to pair to have the right pairing. And you have to have that cheap labor coming off the bench, because Lord knows you're going to have some max contracts in that starting lineup. And that's what the Hawks right now, that's what they're dealing with. So I think going forward, I think AJ Griffin is the guy that, that has the most value as far as keeping him on the roster. But peep this one, though. Let me get your thoughts on this. I think Bogdan Bogdanović, as far as who has the most value to trade to possibly get some decent return, I think he's that guy, though, T. I think he has to be that guy.
No question, because you've already exhausted the opportunities, the options, the chances, whatever word you want to use, to try to move John Collins on. Yes. And no matter what you do with a team that you and I know, we have to keep that piece confidential what that team is, but just knowing an insider from that team, this particular team has gone after John Collins probably for the last 2.5 seasons. And no matter what, when they get down to the finals, they just can't make it work, right? So you're going to have to cut your losses, because now versus where you were 2.5 years ago, John Collins just doesn't have the same value. So you're going to have to put something in there. And right now, I thought about it last night, Jarvis. I was like, man, I said the 22 points, you like it. But on the same token, it's almost like the 22 points is making the case in a positive way for the Hawks to say, great job, Bogey, but also to tell some other team, look how great Bogey is, because he'll give you 22 cold off the bench. And if you need that, and you don't mind him going up and down and being a streaky shooter, then we got a guy for you to package with him. Now, the question becomes, and, Jarvis and I are going to talk to you guys about this a little bit more tomorrow as well, is as you get closer to the actual trade deadline, are we talking about, and again, we'll tease you, come back tomorrow, Jarvis, and I'll tell you more, but as you get closer to the trade deadline, can you do it now? Or do you just have to hit that small piece, get a little something to help you out to maybe get you into the 8th spot, and then start strategizing about what you're going to do in free agency?
Absolutely. And like you said, it's all about getting their bearings together and figure out what the hell they want to do as an organization. And I don't think they're going to be able to answer that within the next 24 hours. Sorry. It's probably going to take a full summer to figure this bad boy out. Now, speaking of T, how about this? Does it even matter that Charles London walked out of those doors at Flowery Branch? We will answer that question next. But first, we have to talk about our new sports betting partner, FanDuel. They are the #1 sports book in America. And guess what? If you have never used FanDuel before, how about this? They got something just for you. I want you to download the app right now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I'll say that again. You'll get up to $3,000 if your first bet doesn't win. What kind of deal is that? Oh, my goodness. I think I'm going to jump on that. How about this? So, what you want to do is, I also want to let you know that the FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings right now. I know if I want my money right now, because the Super Bowl is a few days away, guys. Come on. Go and download that app. And what you're going to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports book partner of the NFL.
And we know that the Falcons are looking to make every decision and every moment from now until the start of the season count. And so they have a little dilemma that even 24, 36 hours ago, we didn't know about. I'm sure Arthur Smith knew about it. Why? Because Charles London is it's a difference, because of course, last season, everyone was coming in from the Titans and from the Bears, respectively. Now we have a coach going out, and that would be Charles London. He got a promotion to passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Titans. So that obviously leaves an opening on Arthur Smith's staff for his quarterbacks coach. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting, Jarvis. As I started thinking about it, I said, granted, taking nothing away from Charles London and the importance of a QB coach, but the Falcons are still in the dilemma that none of us will actually know how it plays out until either April, maybe free agency will show us earlier, but possibly April, if we're really being honest, when the draft hits, right?
Right.
But I think the question is this: does it really matter who the chosen candidate is for the QB coach position? Because the biggest thing is the Falcons have to decide, are we building around Desmond Ridder? Are we going to go out and try to draft another quarterback? Are we going to try to get a starting QB in free agency? Or do those factors weigh in? Or Jarvis, let's be real. Does it even matter? Because at the end of the day, you can just sneak the QB coach into Dave Ragone's responsibilities because Arthur Smith is still the play caller.
I think the latter is what I would go with, because when you think about it, like you said, Arthur Smith, calls the plays on Sundays. We know that for a fact, right? And then Dave Ragone has the official title of offensive coordinator, so he helps come up with the game plan throughout the week, and they kind of go back and forth. And I'm sure Arthur Smith, trust him enough to be able to come up with a efficient enough game plan, so he can just worried about calling his plays accordingly on Sundays. Now, with Charles London out the way, we know that Arthur Smith and Charles London worked previously together, so there was an opportunity for him to upgrade, to promote, have a promotion within the organization with somebody he worked with before. So this is another opportunity for him to kind of grow, and we know what he's trying to do. Now, Arthur Smith, hey, I think nothing changes for them, because guess what? Dave Ragone is going to have an opportunity to be closer to Desmond Ridder. And I'm sure their relationship has already been fostered, because Dave Ragone has played quarterback in the NFL, and he kind of understands what it means. And these are his words. He understands what it means to not be, succeed that much, from an expectation standpoint.
Right.
He knows what it takes to kind of work to get better. So guess what? He's going to have to work up his quarterback coaching skills. And I think that Dave Ragone will be the guy. Now, our friend of the show, Tori McElhaney, threw a name out there that I thought was very interesting. She said maybe TJ Yates, who's now the wide receiver coach, he may be able to jump into that saddle as far as the quarterback coach. Now, of course, that'd be a promotion for him.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's gonna be a determining factor as to what decisions they make going forward, whether it be free agency, bringing in a quarterback, or drafting a quarterback. I don't think those play factors at all.
No, I would agree with you. And there was something great that you just mentioned as well, a point that we didn't even talk about before the show, and that is continuity. Because if you are leaning in the direction, as the Falcons, potentially leaning in the direction of Desmond Ridder, then you've got Dave Ragone as your OC. Let him be /QB coach, because he's already started to build that rapport. He's already seen what Desmond Ridder can do. Desmond Ridder's already been in the system for at least 1 year. So yeah, I definitely like that thought that you had about the fact that there is some chemistry, some connectivity, and some consistency there that can only actually bode well in his favor. So yeah, best case scenario, I just think maybe you add that to the title for Dave Ragone. And when I say second, I'll say not worse.
Pay, of course, you know what I'm saying?
Of course,
won't let nobody work for free on this show.
Yeah, we all want a little. Hello.
Sweeten the pot a little bit, like, hey man, we'll have a couple thousand, you know what I'm saying, a few thousand or tens of thousands, like however you want to do it, baby.
Yeah, and it adds to his resume, because who doesn't want somebody who's a quarterback whisperer, right? And then the TJ Yates option is not a bad second scenario, if you will. Right. I think that's fine. The one thing I would say is I suspect they're going to keep it internal because of the very thing that you just mentioned, which was keeping that consistency if they're deciding that they want to develop Desmond Ridder and kind of see how he goes. Now, speaking of consistency, one of the things that the Falcons have done as well is kind of do a little poaching from the Saints organization, Ryan Nielsen being the most recent poach, if you will. So we had to have our guy Chuck Smith on yesterday to talk a little bit about that. And he gave us some interesting feedback on what his thoughts were in bringing Ryan Nielsen on in that DC role and how that might impact this Falcons defense.
I hate when I have to go there, because it sometimes takes time for guys to develop. Yep. Everybody come in after the first year and get 10 sacks. Everybody's not, you know what I mean? So I think even if Arnold came out this year and was average, there's still a development phase for him. So we all put pressure on him because we know we need that. But there's such a development phase. But I think believing in him, but also him taking control of his own career and improving on some of the techniques that he didn't have last year.
You know what, T? I think Chuck said the very that is the most important thing that he said right there. He said development, because we've all been focused on who they're gonna bring in, what free agent they're gonna bring in, who they're gonna draft. But I think regardless of what defense you want to call it, it's gonna be 11 people on the field. And guess what? Some of the guys that were a part of that 11 last year, they're gonna be on the field again this year. So, and I think that you're gonna have to develop those guys, because guys like Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, Troy Anderson, all those guys need to be coached. And I think that's what Ryan Nielsen needs to worry about as of this moment, the guys that are already in the building. And that's he's been doing his due diligence as far as having conversations with guys. He said he talked to Troy Anderson, I think almost 3 times already. So that's good. And Troy needs all the coaching he can get. sorry, I had to throw that in there.
T, why you shaking your head like that? Because that was that low key shade. But okay. It's okay, my brother. Keep it real.
I'm sorry, now, granted, mind you, I was literally real funny story, right? So I was literally thinking to myself the other day, I had got the little video breakdown on my Twitter page pinned up, right? And I haven't taken it down just yet. And I think that I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, you know what? Probably need to do a little dig into some more film and see, later on in the season, see if the guy did progress in my eyes. A lot of people say he did. The NP say he did, but I like to go off of what I see. You know what I'm saying? Like my eyeballs can catch on it. But yeah, I think because that shade that was a little low, T. I think I need to cleanse myself. I need to go watch some film on Mr. Anderson and see,
hug it
he's
out.
gotten a little better. Yeah, hug it out, man. We keep it funky over here, but it's all love, baby.
Let me get him back on track.
Yes, thank you, T.
Yeah, we were talking about Troy Anderson and the progress, for example, that he needs to make and his development. And we actually think that Ryan Nielsen could be the guy who could do it. And Jarvis, in addition to that, I think there are just enough individuals who are retained on the defensive side of the ball who can give him some insight that he might need. Some of that scouting that you just talked about, that they can, some internal scouting, if you will, to tell him, hey, this is where these guys are, talking about the guys up front. But also we talked to Chuck about Cam Chancellor and an Earl Thomas. And those are some guys that Ryan Nielsen has developed, so we could be encouraged about maybe what he'll be able to do with the likes of a Richie Grant or a Jalen Hawkins. But if you're somebody who is concerned about what in the world they're going to do with Charles London, or what in the world his replacement that is, or what in the world they're going to do with Ryan Nielsen, well, you know what? Built Bars always calm everybody. And why? Because from what everyone says, it's a woo-saw situation and it's a delicious treat. And if you're somebody who likes cookies and cream, and I saw some stat a couple days ago that said it is the #1 flavor for just about anything. Candy bars, ice cream, you name it. Cookies and cream is a thing. Double chocolate if you're a chocolate fan, or coconut puffs as well. They have it all for you. And what I really like is we live in a world of convenience, right? So whether you think convenience is about being online and you can go to built.com and still get those bars, but convenience might also be because there's a Wally World on every corner. So you can go to Walmart and get it. And of course, Big Wally World, you can also get those bars at Sam's Club now. And again, Jarvis and I continue to be on our health journey. So only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar. And that's important because, hey, if you come from a family like mine that is full of diabetics, you're always looking at the sugar content of what you eat. So this will allow you to be careful with that sugar content. And now they're up to 17 grams of protein. And remember, the protein that they use makes that bar really soluble. That means it gets down into your system really quickly and you are able to get energy from it. So again, if you are still stressed out about what's happening in Flowery Branch, or real talk, if you're wondering what in the world is going to happen between now and 3 o'clock tomorrow at the trade deadline, get yourself a Built Bar and it'll make everything okay. But I agree with you, Jarvis. I can't see anything but the positive in terms of Ryan Nielsen, as long as, like you said, he knows he has one job as far as his most important, his #1 priority, and that is looking at what you have already and seeing first, if there is someone, and we believe there are, but if there are somebodies who can be developed and then be the guy that you've always been, develop them and make them into what you need them to be so that this defense can be what it needs to be.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. You have to make sure that you're doing what you need to do and make the main thing the main thing. And that's the main thing as of this moment. Now, for all you people who've been saying, you know what, Jarvis ain't throwing out that email in a long time. ATLday1s@gmail.com. That's all you got to do. Shoot us an email. Everybody has an email. No excuses. You want to get in contact with the show, ATLday1s@gmail.com. Also, if you're listening to this show or watching this show and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, what the heck are you waiting on? We're on our way to 6,000 subscribers. Be a part of the movement. But today is Wednesday. But this is for the culture, though. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. Sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down to this show. And today is no different. How about this, T? LeBron surpasses Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the number one all-time scorer in the NBA. T, when I think about LeBron, the first thing to come to mind to me is not whether or not he's the GOAT or he's better than Michael Jordan. I refuse to have that conversation until LeBron is retired. Y'all can say what y'all want to say about that. I don't give a crap. But I think LeBron is the first guy that I saw that had all the hype, all of the coverage since he was on a high school basketball court and lived up to every moment, expectation. When you talk about just all of this pressure, and for him to just come out and just shine like he has as a player, T. And that's just from a player standpoint. We ain't talk about off the court. We can't even got to that yet.
Right.
But just from a on the court standpoint, you gotta give your hat off and say, hey, he's the king.
No question. I really, really like what you said, because when we were talking about it pre-brief, that was the question of how would we approach it. And I remember sending you a little note in the chat saying, I really like the fact that you said LeBron is king, because I think it then obliterates the conversation that people keep trying to have about the GOAT.
Yeah.
That's going to be, like you said, a debate that can be had maybe when he retires, because LeBron is not retiring this year. He's not retiring this season. So there's more out there to be had, whether that's a championship, whether that is breaking more records, or whatever it is that LeBron is going to set out to do. Because again,
I like that.
One thing,
whatever he sets out to do, he can do it.
Yeah, because he has. I mean, there's not really much that you can say that LeBron has set out to do that he has not done. He's literally gone and with the Miami Heat, hey, I'll drop a few more rings on you. Let's just be real. The Lakers had not been relevant since Ben. And when he joined, I don't care if you want to call it a pandemic ring or not, somebody still had to get on the court and win it. And he and his team did that. So that is amazing. 3 franchises within the course of his career. And I think the other thing is this. You make a great point. Michael Jordan was kind of the first whom we saw really kind of live his life in a vacuum and be this international superstar. But the one thing he did not have to deal with was social media. And having the paparazzi have the access to him like they do to LeBron James. And yet, with all of the chatter, with all of the hateration, there's been a lot of hateration his way from day one. And that's just like, that's just low hanging fruit. I mean, people have really gone in on him, and yet he continues to produce, even in a game like last night, where the other 11 people didn't show up. He did. Yeah. He did. And I think that speaks volumes to who he is as a professional. I am just excited for him. I hope that he just continues to do what he's doing. And like you, just for a different reason, I'm not going to go the GOAT route because, I see different reasons for GOAT for the two of them, right? Yeah. I had the good fortune of, seeing them both. Saw Jordan win a championship, saw LeBron on his way to winning a championship because he obliterated the Hawks that particular season, that 60-win season. And one thing I will say about both of them, just the mental, just steely in their mindsets. And then I didn't have a chance to, of course, cover Jordan in the locker room by any stretch, but having the opportunity to cover LeBron James after one of those playoff games, Jarvis, everything about him is pristine. His thought process, he focused on each and every reporter when you were asking the question. He could tell you stats and information on every player on his team from that very game. It was crazy. And then his body, perfect. Like he knew from day one, I've got to take care of this temple.
7-figure investment team.
Exactly. I'm trying to be here for 22 years, like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for example. And the fact that when I saw him, I remember the only other guy that actually was that impressive, if you will. And guys, remember when we're in the locker room, of course, they still have on their jerseys and everything. They're still, in basketball mode. So I want to make that clear. But Tony Gonzalez, I think it was maybe post-practice. And of course, LeBron post-game, perfect bodies. And when I say that, the reason I'm saying that is because both of those guys knew that they wanted to play at a high level until they walked away from the game. And Jarvis, being a Falcons fan and a Falcons reporter, that Tony Gonzalez walked away from this game still playing at an extremely high level. And that's the one thing I want to give LeBron a shout out for as well, because that's some GOAT stuff that, he's in rare air with the likes of, like I said, a Tony Gonzalez, a Tom Brady. Yeah, just different.
Yeah, he has several legacies that he will leave once he walks away from the game. And then when you think about that, that's why I don't want to have that conversation right now. But let's just wait till he finishes, because I don't think he's done by no means. He said he wants to play for his play with his son. I believe he can do that.
Yeah, I always thought that too. Like, he's waiting on Bronny. And it's a beautiful thing, because honestly, last year, whether you hated or loved Tom Brady, when he made his first retirement announcement, don't tell me that you weren't sad about it, unless your team just got destroyed like every single year. But other than that, when a legend, a GOAT, or whatever you want to call him, an icon, walks away from the game, like we've always said, and you guys are going to hear this from us again at the end this season or at the end of next season. We always told you were going to miss Matt Ryan when he was gone. Forget what he looked like with the Indianapolis Colts this season. You're going to miss LeBron James when he's gone. So you better keep enjoying him while he's here.
I missed out on an opportunity to enjoy Michael Jordan's greatness. I refuse to let that happen again. So I'm going to continue to do that. We want to thank you guys for enjoying our greatness. Wait a minute, what kind of segue is that? Anyway, we want to thank you guys for listening to ATL Day One. Why don't you make your second listen Locked On Sports today? They have all the latest news, national news. I'm sure they will be pontificating on whether or not LeBron is the GOAT. We won't do that, but they probably will. So yeah, why don't you go check them out wherever you find this download this podcast. And last but not least, before we get out of here, folks, I have you one more thing. I ask you to do this. Make sure you do this. Make it a big effort to do this. Make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.